All right, we might as well get this out of the way. QC issues all over the place. I got one shoulder came too low. I got the other shoulder sitting up at the right angle. One wing is pushed back. The other wing is straight out. I got the knees. One's floppy, one's stable. Duh, Fanstoys! You screwed it up again! Either that happened, or it was mistransformed out of the box, and we can clean it up and get it looking nice. I'll show you how to do it. What's up, everybody? It's your favorite gun jumper's favorite nerd, and today we are looking at the Fanstoys Maverick, their take on Silverbolt, who has already had tons of drama surrounding him because people want to see this company fail. Ironically, it's the same people that are crying that they can't get the G1 MP stuff they want from 3P, and Fanstoys is the only one really consistently supplying it, but I digress. I've met people in my life that are afraid of success, that are afraid to win, and I would compare those folks to the same people that are afraid to finish their collection with quality figures. And I got this from the toy guy, great dude to do business with. I will leave his email in the description at the top. If you end up using him for your purchase, tell him Skully sent you, especially if you're on the East Coast. It'll help a lot with quick shipping. Let's talk about the problems that aren't really problems. For one, the shoulder. The shoulder comes in the box like this. The reason for that is to keep the pieces away from the paint as to not cause any scratching during the shipment. All you have to do is rotate the shoulder up and you're fine. It's not a big deal. You can undo the red stuff and get a cleaner kind of approach to doing it where you don't have to worry about bumping into anything, or you can just do it. Either way, it's your world. The other thing, at least on mine, one wing was like this and the other wing was not. And I'm guessing that's just something that was a freak of nature. But you can easily tuck it back in. Once again, you're good to go. Now I was even taken back by how loose this knee was. And I was like, man, that doesn't feel right. And on the Patreon where I do my first impressions, I did it last week and said, this doesn't feel right. But then I remembered, I think there's something to the knee. And there is. There's a peg that connects the knee. And I'll show you how to do that. All you have to do is flip this piece out here that'll plug into this piece, and he's secure. No problems. Typical Fanstoys quality, which is to say top shelf. Solid as a rock. And now we can talk about accessories. He comes with one alternate, don't make your Facebook post before making sure you have it transformed properly face. And it's decent enough, I guess. I'm not a big fan of these super kind of crazy emoting faces. If they were to do an emoting face, I would prefer it have more of an attitude. Like a smirk with a character where it makes sense, or perhaps like some sort of like subtle expression as opposed to something that's super dramatic like this. But this is what they gave you, and ultimately it's fine. But if you were like, nah, you know what I want? I want a Silverbolt with a chin strap. They give you one of those too. You can just swap the faces out. And lastly, they give you kind of his signature gun, which is scaled to him, which is nice, has the metallic fleck finish, and looks appropriate and beautiful. He holds it in the typical Masterpiece style, and he does so beautifully. The only problem is, with guns like this, design-wise, that go way up into the forearm, you're not able to really swivel the hand while the gun is in place. I've mentioned this in previous videos, and this will be one where I mention it as well. So if you want this switch, you have to unplug the hand, or unplug the gun from the hand, move the hand, and plug it back in. And let's talk about the figure. So first and foremost, it's pretty much painted head to toe. And painted beautifully. So the head is on a swivel, which is a bummer. That's not to say this guy's perfect. He's got issues, and we'll talk about them. But the head is on a swivel. The swivel is connected to a flap. In order to swap the heads, you swap them off of the mushroom peg. I have noticed that my head has come off of the mushroom peg against my intentions. So that's a bit of a bummer. I wish it would have been designed differently. So you get the swivel. It's fairly limited also because you will bump up against pieces of the canopy or can of peas, or fuselage, if you will. And you can get a little bit up on this flap, and then the head also hinges in a separate joint from the neck to the head. The face sculpt, beautiful. However, it doesn't have the metallic painted eyes, which is a bummer. I like when they do that, and these don't look like they did it. And it's metallic paint pretty much everywhere else. Maybe they're just messing with people now. I'm not sure. We have the red metallic paint. We have the metallic flecked white paint. Oh, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. Metallic flecked gold paint. Perfect. But one thing that's not perfect is the waist swivel. And you do get a little bit, but I'll tell you, it's not enough. Well, maybe if you get the flap out of the way, you get a little bit more, but not really. But I find myself wanting more. Now, I've often said in the past that it's kind of okay because we don't really have this in real life. But you know what? I found when posing this guy, I do want a little bit more waist swivel. So I feel like it's a bit of a bummer. We have the silver paint down here in the pelvis, and we have the hip skirts, which brings us to another bummer. So these flip up in order to get out of the way for the legs, which is great. That's how it should be. This panel here sits on the side and it folds under for transformation and so forth. But the problem is that, hopefully you can see what the problem is. But you can get the leg up now, no problem. But you can't get it out to the side. But you know what, I was just thinking about it. I guess you could just fold it in and then you can get it out to the side. So that's okay, you know what I mean? But that's not, it's not perfect. But I think it's the workaround I think will work. And I just sort of came up with it as I was talking through it, so good enough. All right, back to the arms. So as we know from the arms, they do have a wide range of movement. This is to allow an outward movement of the arm to 90 degrees, and then you can even tuck it back. So basically it's a double joint here. Well, it's a joint here and a joint here, like a double hinge, so that you can get more of the poses. So it can go all the way up to there. Plus you get the swivel, and you can even get the arm kind of across the chest for butterfly and back. So like, that's extremely well done. That's a well done shoulder. And it's funny because it's kind of, I mean, even I said on the sit down Saturday, I was like, look, the shoulders look a little low. But then I think I also said maybe it's mistransformed, but neither here nor there. We have a bicep swivel with the gold metallic paint. We also have this black metallic that looks great. And then we have a single hinged elbow, which is another point of contention to me. Gets you a little shy of 90 degrees, but I find myself wanting more, and it's this cut. If they had a flap here, it could have allowed you to get a double jointed elbow to bend that arm all the way up. I think it would have been just a better designed thing. We have a wrist swivel, die cast piece here screwed into the plastic, and then you have your typical kind of Fanstoys hands. We have the ball peg at the base of the thumb coming out to an additional hinge. Then we have a base pin knuckle with individually articulated fingers that are then pinned at the secondary knuckle. So no problems there, it all works perfectly. And we have a couple accents along the way, like the silver paint on the forearms. It's a stunning figure in terms of deco, it really is. All right, so the hips. We'll move our little flap, and then we'll move our secondary flap. That gets the leg a little shy of straight out, which I think is more than enough. And back to there, which is more than enough on hard ratchets. However, coming out to the side, it's tensioned, and it's a heavy leg. So you won't be able to get him standing like this, but when I've been doing poses and stuff, I found that he supports his weight just fine when it's pushed down on it. Do you know what I mean? Thigh swivel's built around the universal, which is perfect. However, for Transformers, I got to admit, it really doesn't matter. If they did a cut joint here, that would have been fine as well. We have the red metallic and the yellow metallic. The red metallic actually has its place, like in some of the animations when he switches into Superion, the red paint there is visible. We have the knees. They're ratcheted, and it's a single hinge, but it gets you 90 degrees, so no issues there. We have the yellow translucent there. We have this little silver accent down there at the bottom that looks great. Then we have the thrusters that are painted with the metallic. We have this little accent down the side that's painted with metallic. We have QC31 on the job today. And then we have ankle tilt down, tilt up, and I think these, and then you can even slide these up and get more if you need it. And we have the ankle rocker, which is a little limited. Not the worst thing in the world. You also have this additional heel spur should you need it. But not the worst thing in the world, and you'll find that you can get them out a fair bit with that, but it would have been nice to get a little bit more. And then we have the back. And the back has kibble on it because it has to turn into a jet. And it's not the worst thing I've ever seen. It's not the best thing I've ever seen. It's kind of, I think, fine. It's this that's the most unsightly piece. Would you agree? These two sides here. That's the part that I find the most distracting. And also, to be fair, this metal bar, I'm not crazy about that. I'm not crazy about the way that that looks. Not that I know a way that they could have done it better, but I think I prefer the Zeta in regard to that. The lower legs, I think, look great. And that's this guy in a nutshell. Size comparison wise, there he is with Motormaster, so I'd say that's pretty much perfect. There he is with Magic Square Prime and Masterpiece Blue Streak, so he's far taller than he should be scale wise. If in your head you're making the argument that, well, he turns into a big jet, so that makes sense, well, then that'll work for you. If in your head you're like, well, I want him to be a super big combiner, so I'm willing to make sacrifices, then that will work for you. If in your head you're like, I have him on a different shelf from where I have a lot of my car bots, then that will work for you. But if you're like, I'm gonna have him next to these type of characters and he's too big, then this will not work for you because he is quite larger than he should be in terms of the scale chart. For me, I'm okay with it because if I were getting this for combine mode, I would want the combiner to be about the size it's going to be. Plus, in my display, the aerial bots will be sitting in their own space, so it doesn't bother me one iota. If you were going to consider putting him with some other Season 2 bots, this is what that might look like in regards to the larger scaled ones. Once again, he's too big. He should probably be about blaster size. So you have to decide whether or not that's okay for you. All right, let's get him transformed. Now let's get some stuff out of the way. You know, I like to do that. It makes me feel better. It makes me feel like I'm accomplishing something. So fold in the heel spur ×2. Slide up your panel here that gives you the extra ankle tilt, fold the foot up. We'll do that on the other side as well. Heel spur ×2, panel up, foot up. All right, let's get the hands kind of sorted also. Open up this flap here, make sure your fist is made into one and the fingers are pointing up. When you open up this hinge, it'll push down on this bottom hinge, which will allow you to open it easy. Tuck the hand in, double hinge it back, close this flap, and then double hinge that back into the bicep. Same for this side. Open up this flap, it'll push this other flap down, tuck the hand in, bring it around with the clowns from out of town. Put your flap back, double hinge back onto the bicep. Hinge these panels and then collapse them and put them back. Same for the other side. Untab your knee pad and then double hinge them down and fold in your tab. Same for the other side. Untab, fold your tab down, double hinge your knee pad. Then you can spin below the knee 180 on both legs. Now we're going to unfurl our wings. This piece will come down and this piece will swing out and that will lock in. Same for this side. Be mindful of your QC sticker. You got to keep it on like a 5950. And then bring this down and around, plug it back in, rotate the tip, so to speak. Then you can bring up your tail fin, and I believe you can collapse these panels now as well. Then you want to unpeg the crotch and bring these flaps down. They're on both sides so that they sit more at like a perpendicular angle across as opposed to parallel. And then you can collapse these a bit as well. Then you just have to line up all your parts. There's two big kind of rectangular tabs in the center and then a number of other smaller ones. And at this point we have done all we can do before we have to make this thing kind of explode, so to speak. So, bring out your shoulders. You can untab all this stuff, these red pieces. It's got to happen at some point. Bring out your shoulders on the double hinge. Give yourself, set yourself up for success. On the side, you'll have this red piece, and you'll have this tab here that plugs into the back. This is what locks in your backpack. You want to get that free. Move that out and collapse all of this and just get it out of the way. So we're going to do the same on this side. Bring this little flap down. You want to untab this one panel that plugs it in to the backpack. Then collapse all your tabs and rotate the entire panel outward. This will allow you to bring this entire backpack piece out and free up this middle area. But it also puts you in the worst predicament because now you have to account for all of these pieces and do your work inside. Human work. Couple easy steps you can do straight away. Fold in your hip skirts towards the center. Rotate the waist 180 degrees. Fold your crotch piece back down. Let's take care of the heads, so to speak. Fold this one in. Your canopy, or should I say can of peas, can come out and around, and now you got those two things sorted. And what I'm trying to do here is just show you how much you can get done before things start really getting challenging. This chest can be tricky. If you kind of push forward and pull out, it will work. And it even says to do so in the instructions. But it's just one of those things. It's like for whatever reason, it's just easier said than done. Like this one's giving me trouble. There it is. Good night. Then from the back side of it, you want to angle this in a way where you can rotate it. And I gotta tell you here, it's a little tight, but you want to rotate this entire chest panel down to the opposite side of the body. We'll show that again. These do hinge in and out, so you will have the clearance to do so. This one's tolerance much better. You can then fold up these side panels. Make sure they're straight. Get as much working space as you can, which can get a little tricky. And I wish I had one more arm. Do you know what I mean? Or at least one more hand. Fold that in on that side. And with these panels straight, do the same for the other side. If you're having issues getting them around this metal bar here, you just remember these are on a swivel, so you can angle them and then get them in. And straight. Good grief. There you go. Then you'll notice that this sits nice and tight over top. And you can go ahead and attach the front nose cone as well by making sure that you get these teeth in there. And then all your front is sorted. Another piece, you got the front, you got the back. So let's finish it off, so to speak, the middle part. So my suggestion is to go ahead and connect these two first, which are these last two middle sections that you have. And then straighten your wings out. They're on double hinges. A lot of double hinges, but I'm okay with double hinges, honestly. And same for this side. It's a little hard to see over top of the camera, but all right, so we have that sort of straight. This piece is connected on another double hinge system right here. This will come up and then slide down. And then on the back, you plug it in, open up these wings, that'll get you over top. And then with these straight, then you just bring down the wings and plug it all in along the side, which works beautifully, no issues. And then what you're left with is this, which is ironic because it's pretty much been the entire struggle through the whole transformation. But set yourself up for success. These pieces are on sliding rails here, so that will allow you to spin this around without bumping into anything. So you know that this piece sits on the bottom, and this is going to come around. You also know that you need the wheels to sit on top, so that's going to come around. So you got yourself sort of lined up and ready to kind of rock and roll. So the same thing on this side. Bring the arm down. You also want to make sure that you got your wings facing the right way. So, like, what I'm trying to tell you is that there's things that you can do to make sure that you're making your life easy when the time kind of gets, to the money shot, so to speak. So let's clean up one of the red pieces now. So you want to form this around the shoulder joint. So you want it as clean as possible. So just fold the pieces until you've got yourself a clean shape. And same for this side. So we'll bring this up, flatten this the best we can, fold that around. And now let's use another common sense approach. So we have to get these metal bars onto these two grooves. Bring it around, slide it in, and now we know that this shouldn't be hanging off the back of the jet, so we have to collapse the shoulder. Then we'll realize that everything starts kind of lining up appropriately. Same for the other side. Bringing this down so that it'll fit in the groove, collapsing our shoulder to give us the appropriate space at the bottom. Make sure that this red piece here is slid all the way out. You've got one red tab here that goes into that notch. Then you have these two here, which go into corresponding ones down there at the bottom. Let me see if I can't get my little tool here. Boom and boom. And then you have two circle holes there for two pegs there. And I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this, but we're going to do the best we can by tabbing that in, bringing it around, tabbing that in, and that worked pretty well. And we're gonna do the same thing for the other side. Make sure that the bar is in the channel. Make sure that everything is lined up. I have found that if you have this wing sitting back a bit, it'll help to kind of line this up. Peg that in first to the side, and then sort of fold the wing around it and try to line everything up. And this one's giving me a little bit more grief. And after some good old-fashioned maximum effort, flip your wings towards the center. I'll get them cleaned up. We'll take a look at them. And there it is. It has landing gear. This one comes out of this, and then these two fold down. I'll tell you what bothers me the most is that this pin is a little loose, and as I'm messing with the jet, like, this always wants to flap down. And like, these panels aren't 100% aligned, you know, perfectly. I'm sure if you wanted to mess with this for, you know, some time, maybe a couple of hours, you could get it. I'm just not that guy that's gonna do that. I just want to kind of get a basic idea. But I think it's well done. I like the little like silver accents that come in from using the die cast as a structural member. I think that's smart. The yellow paint looks great for the little window pieces, and then the translucent yellow for the cockpit. We have the gunmetal here for the nose cone. And then the whole thing has the finish, and the little kind of turbines here in the back are all, or the engines or whatever they are. What am I, an Air Force pilot? They're all painted as well. So, you know, underneath isn't as, you know, it's not super elegant, but I think, honestly, for what this is and what this has to turn into, I think it's probably the best that we've seen. You can see I got my bump out not quite clean there either. It was clean at one point, I guarantee you, but I've kind of been messing with it and taking some pictures and stuff. But yeah, dude, I mean, I don't know. I think it's pretty impressive what it pulls off. That's a lot of bot you got to collapse into a very small place, and they found out a way to do it, and I got news for you. It's involved, but it's not frustrating, and this is what I'm kind of okay with. It's not my preferred method. I prefer to just be straight fun. But I'd much rather something be involved but work fairly well, or at least properly, than something be involved and not work well like the RC or the Cup of theirs. That's kind of what I've been talking about, and I got news for you, they kind of nailed it. Speaking of nailing things, Tiger Tracks. Final thoughts wise, let's talk about the negatives because there are plenty. This isn't a perfect figure by any stretch of the imagination. Articulation wise, the single elbow does limit range, and you'll find yourself wanting to make more dynamic poses than what the single hinged elbow will allow. At first I was gonna ding them for the hip articulation as well, but with the way that panel folds in, I think they deserve a pass there. However, I do wish it had a bit more of an ankle rocker. It has a good one, don't get me wrong, but I wish it had a bit more. And I also wish it had a bit more head articulation, especially up and down. It's tensioned universals out to the side. This happened because people complained about wide tooth ratchets being used and not being able to get the pose that you want. However, they're heavy legs, and I would have preferred to have a little extra support with a ratcheted system. And then my last criticism is that because of the way they designed to have the head swap out feature, I have found that with extensive manipulation of the head, it tends to work itself off the mushroom cap, so to speak. Not the biggest deal in the world, not something you can't sort out with a quick push back on, but still something that's a little aggravating. But on to the positives, of which there are many. It is painted from head to toe, and the paint is drop dead gorgeous. It is sculpted from head to toe, and the sculpt is drop dead gorgeous. It is built extremely well. Ironically, the shoulders, which is what everybody complained about, and even caused some concern for me upon initial look at the pictures, have allowed for some of the best articulated shoulders I have seen in a long time, in a very simple but elegant design. It has a strong weight to it. The transformation, like I said, is involved, but it works fairly smoothly. There's a lot of tabbing in at the end, similarly to Motormaster, and that is definitely the most awkward part, plus working around all of those pieces that are kind of tucked up in his chest. All of that is true, but I never got frustrated on this, and I'm easily frustrated, especially with this company in regard to their engineering. I think the alt mode is impressive, not only the size and sculpt of it, but also the engineering in regard to how much they were able to tuck away and hide for a fairly seamless design. It does have some stuff at the bottom. Silverbolt always will. But that doesn't mean it's not done elegantly, because I think it is. The one thing I do want to bring up is this is a heavy figure. So I really hope their parts forming elements are secure for the combine mode, or this thing is going to have an extremely hard time distributing that weight once you got 4 more guys hanging off of this thing. But there's no sense in worrying about the future. We'll have to cross that bridge when we get there. But it is something that's making my spider sense tingle. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Until next time, take care.